What's up, everyone? Grayson the Dean 221 Nichols here on the Elite Rounders YouTube channel, as always. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't going to do a video for a couple days until we had the duel with Negreanu and Hellmuth get back started for round three. But woke up this morning, was just walking the dog, and I was scrolling on Twitter, and I saw an amazing hand with the legend himself, Phil Ivey. And I couldn't help myself. I had to come back here, check out the hand again, watch it again and again, and I wanted to do a quick video for you all and just talk about what we witnessed again, the greatness that we witnessed from Mr. Ivey. So a little context. The poker gods have clearly been listening to us recently as we've all been really enjoying these heads-up battles that we're seeing left and right. You know, Polk Negreanu, Negreanu Hellmuth. And so the WPT answered with a heads-up championship, 32 of some of the best heads-up players in the world. So there's been a lot of really good stuff. So definitely recommend hopping on YouTube and checking out some of the highlights. The commentating's excellent too. We got my man Nick Schulman here, as you all know, my favorite announcer by far. That is just someone you need to listen to and hang on every word that this guy says. Joey Ingram, Poppy, obviously the best personality out there in the poker universe. So there's just great stuff going on here. Really love this product. Really recommend you guys checking it out. But this is the hand that's just flying around Twitter right now. Everyone's up in arms. Again, solvers be damned. This is just Ivey's world and we're all living in it. So let's just hop in really fast and look at what happened here. So the blinds at the moment are 501K. I believe this is the third round battle between Ivey and Chris Kruk. Maybe the second round, not positive. Yes, it's semifinals here, excuse me, so third round. And they're tied 1-1, best of three at the moment right now. My dog just walked in. And so, a little background information too. Kruk is one of the best players in the world. This guy is an incredible tournament player. Don't know a ton about his heads-up game, but I'm assuming he's brutally tough. Just one of the top poker minds in the world right here. So this really is a battle between two superstars. So the blinds are 501K, and Kruk opens on the button to 2200 with pocket deuces. Pretty standard. Ivey, off of around 60 big blinds, decides to 3-bet with the 7-9 offsuit to 7,300. I think this is fine. This makes sense. I think this is a hand that, reasonably could be just called pre-flop most of the time as the standard line. But I think this is fine. I think a lot of 3-betting heads up comes down to game flow and the dynamic that's going on. So I think 3-betting here, makes sense. It seems reasonable. And I think Chris has a pretty standard call here in position with the deuces. And the flop is a whole bunch of nothing. 10 high, 10-3-5 rainbow, nothing special, right? Daisy, come here. Sorry. You guys know what dogs are. So, Kruk, it's a reasonable flop for his deuces here, and Ivey obviously has nothing right now, right? This is where it gets kind of interesting, and I want to talk about something, a tendency after I show you guys what happened. Something that I've always noticed is that great players tend to make you do things you wouldn't normally do, right? I'm not going to make assumptions about Chris's game because again, he's one of the most elite players in the world. But he did do something a little strange here, and I wonder if he would do this against normal opponents. And I find that when you're up against someone elite and they make you do something you wouldn't normally do, that's usually them winning over us, right? So kind of keep that in the back of your head. Like, try to play your game. Don't get too out of your element when you're facing someone who's better. I think that often they get the best of you in those instances. So what I'm talking about specifically is Phil goes ahead and c-bets, of course. Bets right around half pod, 7,000. And Chris goes ahead and makes an unusual raise here. And I remember thinking when I saw this, I was like, oh, this seems like a spot where Chris is definitely just going to float with the twos. And I get why he wants to do this unorthodox raise. I think he knows that Phil is going to have just a ton of c-bet folds in this spot. Hands like 7-9, hands like ace-6, even a hand like ace-jack, ace-queen, ace-king. It's really hard for him to continue in this spot, right? So I kind of see where Chris is at. However, I imagine if Chris was against a softer opponent, he would just call in this spot and then reevaluate the turn. So I was a bit surprised to see this, and as you can see by Nick Schulman's face, I think he was a little surprised to see this too. I think Nick expected the call also, and kind of mentioned that this is like a probing raise of sorts, right? So this could be one of those spots where Chris adjusted a bit because Phil is so special and so different in a situation where he might have called normally. So very curious what he would have done there. Again, you're talking about two of the best players in the world right now, so there's a lot of meta game going on, so it's hard to say. But I do think it's worth noting that when an elite player makes you do something unusual that you don't normally do, they often gain a benefit from that, right? And, I'm sure for those of you who caught this hand on Twitter or caught it live, this is where the Ivy magic comes in. And he moves all in. He just goes ahead and re-raises all in, and you can see the reaction from the announcers. And Chris Kruk mucks the deuces. Ivy wins the big pot. Both Joey and Nick fall back in their chairs. Can't even believe what they saw. And, again, it's just greatness from Phil Ivey. That's what's so awesome. In a world that is becoming more defined by computer help, softwares, GTO, Ivy continues to forge his own path and show that you could be effective doing contrarian plays, just making sure that it makes sense. And before we sign off here, let's talk a little bit about kind of the logic behind what Phil did here. And I think if you want to try to range Chris a little bit, I think it's that, again, this raise is strange, right? Because if Chris was to have something like, first of all, tens would have probably re-raised pre-flop, so those are out of the question. If he had a set of threes or a set of fives, he likely just calls here in position and lets Phil keep blasting off, right? Then if he has a lot of his tens, I think he also might call. Ace 10 might even call, and then 9, 10, Jack 10 might call because they're more dubious, right? So I don't think there's a ton of hands that Chris is raising to 16K and calling Phil's shove with. I think there's a lot more semi-bluffs he can have, and then a lot more stuff like exactly what he does have with the deuces. That's kind of like a probe bet, like Schulman mentioned, right? So I think Ivy read this bet as one that is very seldom value oriented, meaning that he doesn't believe if he jams here that Chris is calling him with a lot. And again, that value range looks like a fast played set of threes or set of fives, which again I think might just call. Maybe ace 10, king 10. And that's really it. There's not a ton else. Maybe a 3-5 suited also that Kruk would do this with. So I think Phil felt that it was more likely that Kruk was doing some sort of feeler bet, like with what he has, maybe like an ace 2, an ace 4, 5, 6. There's just a lot of stuff I think that Phil felt that Chris could be raising with here that he was likely folding to the jam. And sure enough, he was right. This is why Ivy has that GOAT mentality. Just a great read from an excellent player against another elite player. Really cool watching these two battle it out and all of the other legends that they have in here. I'm really excited to watch the final four. The final four matches, I believe, that will be going on later today. So definitely check those out. And check us out in, I think, 2 days when we're going to have the duel round 3 returning for Negreanu versus Hellmuth. These are like my favorite videos to make. I love listening, battling with all the Hellmuth fans in there. So definitely check us out and go ahead and do me a favor and hit that thumbs up here. And I will see you guys in a couple days for the duel recap. Best of luck, everyone, and I look forward to watching the rest of these. Peace.